Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. All right, we are breaking free, really, honestly, from making molehills into mountains, and instead we're going to bring mountains down to molehill size. What do you think of that idea? Don't you think that's a good idea? I'll tell you why it's a good idea. Because they're handleable. Handleable. Yep. Handle-able. We can do something with a molehill, but if we have this erupting huge mountain in the back of our yard, what are you going to do with that? Nothing you can do with that. Molehills we can handle. We have ways around that. There's strategies, there's tactics. Molehills can be handled, but you can do nothing about a great big huge mountain because mountains are purposely unmovable. Not in my world though, because we can break free from this whole mountain making and go to the place of putting things into perspective. So we talked about yesterday, if you remember, she does keep the wheels on the bus. And thank you, Jennifer, you're so sweet. So we talked about seeking out wisdom and what that really meant. And we looked at wisdom as one of the means that we can use to resolve the intensity of our over worrying, of over anxiety, and over creating these little molehills into mountains and making issues entirely too big, much bigger than they are, by our exaggerated thinking and thoughts and speaking about, even in jest, even a little sarcastically, because we understand now, right, that our brains don't get that. They don't, not at all. I mean, our brain is just like, your wish is my command. It is command center. It is taking directives and it's taking down the information that you give it. And even if you're just being a little bit funny or sarcastic, it's still saying, okay, yeah, that's what you want. You got it, right? What? You know? Right. I used to say, if I walk by and even smell a bakery, I will gain weight. And I thought I was being really funny. And didn't you know it? That's exactly what happened, because I gave my brain an instruction. That's how brains operate, by the way. That's not me just saying, oh, this is, wouldn't that be cool? It's not. It's not how. It is how it is. And the reason it is the way it is because of the way it works. It isn't sophisticated enough to pick out the layers of sarcasm and irony and cuteness that we dispense. It just picks up an instruction and runs with it. So we, at the foundational level, need to gain a new perspective to watch what our thoughts and our words are turning into, because we are speaking and writing out basically instructions for our brains. We're creating even new synapses for our brains with our crappy thoughts. That's the other thing that we need to know. So you can't see your way out of it or feel your way out of it or figure your way out of any of this, can you? I mean, we get to that place of just saying, I just don't even know what to do. I think one of the fallback things that we need to start thinking about is, can I Diana Nyad my way out, right? Because we're not talking about MacGyver, who was a fictional 80s character who would always seem to have the right amount of duct tape and pen knives and whatever else to get him his way out. We're talking about Diana Nyad, a real life hero, a woman that we can all look up to, who is, our age or older, who's figured out a way to get across that shark-infested ocean to reach her goal. We all have the ability to Diana Nyad our way out. Find a way is what she said, which I wrote on my dream board, which I have everywhere, which I always remind myself of, that there is a way out always. Not that I'm the biggest eternal optimist, though I am fairly optimistic, I don't always have answers. I don't always know what to do next. And sometimes I feel overwhelmed and buried, like we all do. But the glimpse of hope is knowing that everything is figure outable and everything has a way and we can find it. Especially if we're going to direct our brain into that whole place of finding a way. What do you think of that? Hi, Jama. Well, to me, this is all comes down to the thing of having eyes to see and ears to hear. Because so often we don't have those eyes to see because we're looking out of a severely dirty lens. You know, and did you see me early right here when we started the show? I've got pink glasses and I've got these glasses. They're the same thing. They have a blue lens to kind of protect, they're reading glasses, but they protect my eyes from all the computer light and what have you. At least that's what they say they do. I don't know if it's true. But let me just say this. When you have a dirty lens or a fogged up lens, you can't see through them. And what do? We change glasses or we take them off and we clean them up. But very often what's at the whole dirty lens thing is our overwhelm, the deflecting of, well, it's not my fault, or blame shifting or blaming someone else, right? Micromanaging something, avoidance, procrastination, and just this whole idea of allowing hopelessness to drape itself around our shoulders and hold us down. Because we've all felt hopeless. Why is it that some people feel hopeless and, you know, it's an albatross around their neck and dragging them down to a hole, and other people feel hopeless and say, hold on a minute. Why does that happen? Well, I mean, there's a whole lot of answers to that, and I'm certainly not a psychiatrist or psychologist or anything like that. And always, there's a chemical reaction. There's familial ties to why we do the things that we do. There's culture involved. There's the people we hang out with. There's a lot of things that influence the whys of all of this stuff. And honestly, at the end of the day, do we really need to figure out the why, or do we need to look at what can I do next? That's what I kind of look at. Because sometimes I don't know why I feel hopeless and I feel like I just can't figure this out. And other things, I don't feel like that. The ever-evolving weirdness of how human beings are, I guess. I don't know. But one of the things that I do know is that having a new perspective will oftentimes, and almost 100% of the time, shift the way we start to think about things. And I see this all the time, by the way. And I've shared my story with you on when I really got that, when it really gelled. And that was when Mark and I were standing out on the deck, looking out, trying to see this pileated woodpecker. Now, those are rare, by the way, except around here in the mountains that you can find them. And I call them the big woody woodpeckers because they're like 17, 18 inches high, big red heads, and they're loud when they're knocking on a tree. It's not like this little tap, tap, tap. It's like bam, bam, bam. It's just like really loud. And we're out on the deck looking out. And I said, oh my gosh, there he is. And Mark's like, where? I don't see him. And I said, right there at 12 o'clock. I don't see him. And I said, Mark, it's there, right there, 12 o'clock. And it dawned on me that he doesn't have my perspective because 1, he's taller than I am. And 2, maybe my 12 o'clock is more like his 11 o'clock. So I brought him over to where I was standing and I pulled him down to my height and said, see, 12 o'clock. Oh, there he is. That's the whole thing. Our perspectives are only as effective as how it is that we see them. And when they need to be shifted and changed and somebody else can't see our perspective, they've got to really stand in our shoes. And I think that's pretty much the definition of empathy as well, don't you? Being able to see something from somebody else's perspective, even if you can't. Just it's enough to care and to know and to be able to walk alongside. So what is the definition of a new perspective then? It's a different viewpoint, number one. It's a new way of thinking or looking at a problem. And it's also fresh new tactics that you can apply to them, like the problem or the issue or the conundrum that you're stuck on. And but the thing that, what the blocker of this whole thing is, it's so much fun. It's so funny. It's so many times we have this issue of not wanting to change our perspective and actually defending them. Even if our perspective is taking us down a wrong path, even if our perspective is holding us back from the vibrant life we want to live. But, oh, you don't understand. You ever hear that? Or, it's too difficult to actually go to the place of, I'm open to what maybe you have to say or whatever. Now, most people aren't open to unsolicited advice, but, at the same time, if you have an invested relationship in each other, being able to, say, hey, what, have you ever considered? It might, there might be a pair of fresh ears to listen to. You never know. But if you think about it, what is the resistance to this idea of a fresh perspective, a different perspective? Well, number one, there's this, how many years, X amount of years of always doing things a certain way. And somebody's, some smart Alex coming alongside and saying, you need to do it differently. Who are you? I've been in this business for 25 years. You don't know. There's a defense mechanism that goes off. And the second thing is we might have to admit that we're wrong. We're wrong. What? Wrong? Me? Wrong? I've been doing this for 25 years, And the last thing is we have to look at ourselves and think, am I even willing to change? Am I? Am I willing to change my mind on something that I've been holding out on, that I've held on to for all these years? Think about that. That's hard to do. And it takes a little bit of a softening of one's ego, and it takes a little softening of one's perspective. I am willing to change. So we talked yesterday about one of the tools to use to help to change some of these things, because these ironclad, we don't have ironclad thoughts necessarily, or ironclad whatevers, especially when you start using terms like, I will never, I can't, it's impossible, all these other things that we do, because that's a full stop into never going to happen, right? Never going to happen. So thought ladders are, instead of, now some of us can do this. Let me just, before I get into thought ladders, some of us can say, you know what? Stupid thought. I'm going to do this instead. So you go from saying, I'm fat and horrible and ugly and this, that, and the other thing, to my affirmation is, I am beautiful and sexy and have a banging bod, something like that. And you go from here all the way on the bottom to way up here, full of confidence and what have you, and no in between to get there, and fully believing that. I don't know those people, but I do believe that there are people out there that have the ability to, on a just a dime, be able to snap that whole thing into place. But for the rest of us human beings who can't, because that's what's required in an affirmation, you got to believe it. Well, what if you don't? What if you don't believe this information, whatever, and you've got to move it from, I'm completely overwhelmed, to this place that I am able to do, make this goal happen. We got to use a thought ladder. And that's what a thought ladder does, is it moves you from the most negative, awful place to the next thing of neutralizing that fiery thought. And then the next thing is opening up to possibility. And the next thing is seeing the possibility and getting there. I'm just like, I am doing these things to get there. And then the last one, of course, is saying, here I am, having that great thought instead of that horrible thought that you were having on the bottom of it. So I think it's a more gentle and thoughtful process than to just say, just change it up like that. I mean, we want to. Don't get me wrong. We all want to. We want that affirmation to fit into place and get it done. And some things we can use an affirmation like that. Some things we can say, you know what? This, and this, done. Some things we can, like getting organized with, your desk, although I'm working on it. I keep saying that. I am working on it. It's gotten a lot better. But the next thing is is to just take the heat and the emotion out. We say it, yeah, Kara says it as a neutral thought. We say it as unplugging from the emotion. In other words, allowing whatever it is to just be a factual thing and be analytical about it. Like, okay, so you've got a lot going on, and yeah, it can be overwhelming. And yes, it's affirming how it is that you're feeling, but not staying there. Then it's allowing for the next thing. That's what a ladder does, right? And think about what a ladder is in the first place. In order to get to the top of the ladder, you have to start at the bottom, and you have to move yourself up. That's how it works. That's what a thought ladder is about. And your thoughts are what take you from A to B, A to Z. The thoughts are. So if you have these inflammatory thoughts, you know, and in an inflamed brain, you're going to have like these crazy stuff coming out of your mouth and absolutely nowhere to go with it. There's no solution. It's just you're buried into all this garbage. So we know that our thoughts can keep us stuck, or our thoughts can set us free. And what we're talking about today are the break free thoughts from feeling like we've got all these mountains in our lives and everything is just insurmountable. It's just not true. And here's the ways that we can start with. First of all, this is how you build your thought ladder. Is number one, you got to start with a negative thought that has stopped you from realizing your goal. So let's just say your goal is to, I don't know, let's say you're overwhelmed. You know, everything in your life, I'm just overwhelmed. I just can't. I'm on the struggle bus. All the things. I am overwhelmed is your overriding thought, and has stopped you from doing anything. Stopped you from, you know, even taking a shower in the morning. Stopped you from living your most vibrant life for sure. But just on the bottom of that, it stopped you from everything. So remember, what does overwhelm mean? It means you're over your head. It means you're stuck. It means you're buried. So if you want to start at the bottom, you need a little wiggle room to get out of there. And that's what a neutral thought does. And that's number two. Well, that's not number two, that's number three. But what you need to do is you're going from here and you want to go to here, then you write out the goal thought. That's number two. What is your goal thought? You want to say, let's say I am overwhelmed, stuck, done, whatever. On the top, you say, I am accomplishing what I want. And you put in what it is. I am accomplishing. Remember something about your brain. It doesn't work in past tense. It doesn't work in future tense. It works in present tense. I am blanking, you know, that is absolutely, you are in the present tense of doing that actual thing. And your brain understands that perfectly. There's nothing to have to untangle or whatever. It's just a directive and an instruction to your brain. So if that's what you want, even though you don't believe it, go ahead and write it out. That's where you need to start. Because even if you don't believe it now, you will believe it later, because you're going to work to there by using the next part in the step in the thought ladder, and that is to write out some in between steps. Okay, those are the rungs of the ladder. Those are the rungs that they lead you to the place of possibility of that ultimate goal. Possibility, you know, possibility is everything. So they're considered neutral thoughts. They're not overly Pollyanna-ish, optimistic, and crazy town, nor are they overly pessimistic and so incrementally small that you can't ever get there. It's going to, you know, that ladder is going to be 100 steps long. They are giving permission is what they're doing. They're permission granting steps. So you say things like this: I am open to whatever it is. And then I am starting to believe that. You see what you're doing? You're giving your brain permission to start to think something different. You're giving your brain permission to say, let's open up and take a look at this just a little bit. When we start to do this kind of a thing, that's when we're starting to, I mean, you can hear the breath come out. You can hear the, you know, without the overwhelm, without the crazy town stuff, because crazy town doesn't help us out. Crazy town keeps us in crazy town, and we want out. That's what this whole thing is about. It's not workable. It's not workable. So I am starting to believe that I can accomplish anything I want. I am open to accomplishing anything I want is a good start. Now that's over general, of course, but I'm giving you that, accomplishing, fill in your blank is a ever the next two are I'm starting and is something, and emotions and feelings we know are different, right? Emotion is something that comes up and swells up that creates a feeling. And our feelings don't have to direct our lives if we don't give them permission to. But when we see them coming and we know how irrational they can be, because they can, we can immediately say, here comes one of those things. And I don't want my feelings to be making this judgment call or to be making this life decision for me. I want me to do that. So I'm going to unplug from that emotion. I'm going to feel it in a minute, or I'm going to get back to that, or I'm going to go through the whole process or whatever, or I'm going to process all of this emotion first, and then I'm going to come back and analytically look at this problem. Or you can do it the other way around if you want, however it works for you. But the point is that without the emotion and the accompanying feelings that go with it, we're able to look at things in black and white terms, like my pro-con list I've told you about. This is my daughter and I used to do that all the time when she was in high school. The pros and the cons. We did that when she was going to college. We did that over a lot of things because it helped us to see what a good decision would look like if it were made. And we need to do this in our lives with the things, especially the things that are holding us back. So number 4 is to look at what you've constructed, your little thought ladder. Look at it. How does it land with you? How does it make you feel? Does it feel like you have enough rungs in between the bottom of the ladder and the top? Are there enough things in there? Processing rungs, if you will. Is it helpful? Maybe it needs a little more massaging. Maybe you need to add another layer of rung in there. You know how you operate. But this thought ladder is to help you to get so that you can get to the top of that without feeling, like you're left in the lurch with nothing, nothing to cope from. If you took a ladder and you took the bottom rung and you put the top rung here and you took all of those in between rungs out, you could get to that top rung, but boy, is it going to take a little bit of gymnastics, isn't it? It's going to take a lot of wiggling. It's going to take some finessing. And it's going to take a lot more work to get to there than it is if you just logically used each rung along the way. So what do you do next? Now that you've constructed it and maybe made a few little changes, added another couple of rungs, you start practicing it. You have to start practicing it because what's involved here is we're constructing new synapses in your brain to help you connect with what it is that you want. And that takes a minute. You need to journal it. You need to speak it. You need to start doing different things so that you can hear, understand, experience, and feel what this is all about. And that's what you need to emote over. Not the other stuff, because the other stuff just pulls us down. We know that. And we need to look at the new insight that you're gaining and be expectant of the answers to be around the corner. Be expectant of the right people to show up. Be expectant that all the questions of how am I going to do this is going to land right there on your lap. Maybe not exactly. Look for unexpected ways in which your answers show up. Because from my perspective, they always do, because I've seen it. When I've had lots of stuff that needs answering or lots of stuff that needs help, there it is. So remember, this is all brand new. Hopefully it is brand new, and it's something that you can use to help you out. But the most amazing thing that you can do to get the place and perspective you want to have is to do this work, because this work it's actual concrete work that will help you see what it is that you need to see. And we all need a customized plan. We all think differently. We all have different whatevers that have influenced the way that we think. And if we want to have 10 rungs in between, we have 10 rungs in between. If we only need 2, great. If you need whatever, it's up to you. But the point is that we have a tool that we can use to help do this work so that we can get to the place that we want to and stop living in the hand-wringing zone of all this garbage overwhelming us and taking us down. You know what overwhelm looks like. It shows up everywhere. It shows up in your home, on your body, in your head, in the words that you speak, in the life that you lead. Overwhelm doesn't need to be overwhelming. It can be managed, and it can be managed and put into bite-sized pieces. It's time to develop new and effective ways to deal with this stuff. We don't have to live handcuffed to a life that we don't want. We can live vibrantly if we choose to. And it's a matter of tools, it's a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of surrounding yourself with the right community as well. That's why we do all this work here. Thanks for joining me today, by the way. I appreciate that. Peace be with you.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.